He didn't look like much, just an older man with a limp walking into a dusty hunting shop on the edge of Ironwood, Montana. You've probably seen 100 like him. Faded jacket, scuffed boots, worn-out cap with some insignia no one bothers to read. But what happened next? No one in town's going to forget that. It started quietly. He pushed open the glass door, that little bell chimed, and he stepped in slow, like every joint had a story to tell. No one noticed. Two young guys behind the counter barely looked up, glued to their phones like the rest of their generation. The older man made his way to the counter and rested one hand on the glass. It wasn't shaking. It was steady, like he'd done this before. "Hey," he said, soft but clear, "you folks still got that old replica of the Eagle 30? Walnut stock? The real frame, not the plastic kind?" One of the clerks barely looked up. "That? Yeah, we got one, but it's not for shooting, man. Just a display piece. Kinda heavy for an antique." The old man nodded. "Wasn't looking to shoot it. Just wanted to see it again. Used to carry one in Nam. Thought I'd hold it for a minute. Just memory, I guess." The second clerk, he was the loud one, let out a laugh. "Man, you really think you can lift that thing with that limp? You're like, what, 80? Maybe go check out the walking canes down the road." The first guy chuckled too. "Yeah, Pops, this ain't a museum. You're blocking the counter." There was a silence then. Not long, just a beat. The old man stared at the glass. Not angry, not embarrassed, just still. Then he gave a single nod. "Understood," he said, and he turned. No fight, no last word, just turned and walked out. And that should have been it. Just another vet brushed off by kids who thought TikTok taught them everything about respect. Except, there was someone else in that store. A woman by the ammo aisle, ball cap pulled low, faded gym shirt. Looked like someone's aunt out running errands. But she saw it, all of it. She stepped out quietly, pulled a phone from her back pocket, and made a call. 3 words. That was all it took. Exactly 1 hour later, at 11:43 a.m., the street outside that gun shop changed. The first car pulled in, blacked-out SUV with plates no one local recognized, parked without a sound, engine still running. Then another, then a third. No music, no open doors, just engines humming like tension. Inside, the clerks were still scrolling, still laughing, still talking about some dumb meme. They had no idea that outside, 12 men were about to rewrite their entire afternoon. At 11:47, the doors opened, all 3 at once. And that's when it happened. 12 men stepped out, not in uniform, not shouting, but when they moved, the whole street felt different. Heavy, focused. These weren't regular men. You didn't need to see medals to know it. You felt it in the way they looked at the building, in how they scanned without looking like they were scanning. Calm, tactical, dangerous if they had to be, but quiet. One by one, they walked toward the shop. No words, just footsteps. Inside, the door chimed again, and again, and again. The clerks barely glanced up. "Afternoon, gents," the younger one said, not even bothering to stand. "Need help with something?" Then he looked up and froze. 12 men stood in a semicircle, eyes locked on the counter. The one in front? Probably in his late 50s, square jaw, hard eyes, dressed like your average Montana dad on a Sunday. But he wasn't average, and everyone knew it. He stepped forward. "An hour ago," he said, low, calm, "one of us came in here." The older clerk tried to speak. "Sir, I think there's been a The man raised a hand, didn't need to say another word. The room went dead silent. He didn't ask for attention, didn't want free gear or some thank you for your service discount. He just wanted to hold a rifle, one he carried through 3 tours. Your boys laughed, called him Grandpa, sent him packing. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out something small, folded, burned around the edges. A patch. He laid it gently on the counter. He pulled that off my vest when I was bleeding out in Fallujah, carried me on foot for 22 hours. No backup, no radio. Hole in his side big enough to see daylight through. Never talked about it. Never asked for a thing. And today, you treated him like he was in the way. The clerks were silent now, frozen, red-faced, shifting from foot to foot like they wanted to disappear. Another man stepped forward. He placed a photo beside the patch. 8 dusty men, gear on, arms over shoulders, squinting into the desert sun. The man in the middle? Older now, but unmistakable. The same guy they'd mocked. "You didn't ask who he was," the lead man said, voice even. "That's the problem." Then, just like that, they turned. One by one, they walked out. No shouting, no grand exit. Just 12 men moving in sync, leaving behind something heavier than words. The store didn't feel the same after that. And the story? Oh, it was only just beginning. It started with a single post. A blurry photo, probably taken by a customer who walked in just after the team had left. It showed the clerks frozen behind the counter, and in front of them, 12 men standing in silence, like statues. The caption didn't scream. It didn't need to. "When you disrespect one of us, you get all of us." That was it. By 1:45 p.m., the image had already been shared in 3 major veteran groups on Facebook. No hashtags, no credit. Just the raw moment and a quiet rage boiling beneath every comment. Most people didn't even know what had happened yet. They just felt something, a weight, a truth. Then someone asked, who was the old man? And that was when the fire started. By 2:12 p.m., a name emerged, Samuel "Sam" Carter, the man with the limp, the cap, the silence. People started piecing things together. A guy who was seen walking alone every morning, rain or snow, sat at the same booth in the corner diner for over a decade, never caused trouble, never asked for a discount, always tipped in cash. One user commented, "That's my dad's old CO from '93. Saved 3 guys on a busted recon op in Nicaragua. Never said a word about it after." Another chimed in, "If that's Carter, you're talking about a legit ghost. The kind of operator you hear about in briefings but never meet, never see in the press." A grainy personnel record surfaced, probably pulled from a long-forgotten military database. It confirmed what the whispers already said. Chief Special Operations Officer Samuel Carter. Joined 1965. Retired 2002. Bronze Star, Silver Star, Purple Heart. Over 40 confirmed extractions in hostile zones. Served across Vietnam, Bosnia, Afghanistan, and places that didn't even have names on maps. No memoirs, no interviews, no news. Just 3 decades of vanishing into the worst places on Earth and coming back with someone else's life in his hands. At 3 p.m., the local news picked it up. Their headline was simple, 12 men stand for one. No fluff, no dramatics, just the facts. A man came in, he was dismissed. 1 hour later, a dozen men showed up. No words, no threats, just presence. Back at the shop, the mood had changed. The photo? Still sitting there, right next to the scorched patch. Customers came in, looked around, but they weren't asking about scopes or ammo anymore. They were pointing at the picture. "Who's that man?" they'd ask. "Will he be back?" One older customer, a Marine vet from Desert Storm, stood at the counter for a full minute, just stared at the photo. Then he saluted it. No words, just walked out. By 4 p.m., a veteran-run blog published a piece titled, "The Ones Who Show Up Without a Sound." The final line of that article? It hit like a hammer. Carter never spoke for himself, so they did. And the town? The town started to listen. By the time the store manager arrived, pale and sweating, the photo had already been sent to his phone 3 times. He didn't speak to the clerks, didn't yell. He just walked past them, opened the display case, and carefully removed the M1 replica that Sam Carter had asked to see. He placed it on the counter next to the photo and the flag patch. Then took out a pen and paper, scribbled a single sentence, and slid it into a frame. He carried it once. We carry the memory now. Outside, someone had left a white flower by the door. Then a challenge coin. Then a handwritten note with one word: respect. By sundown, a small crowd had gathered. No chants, no cameras, no shouting, just quiet. Like the air itself knew something important had happened. Something you don't put into headlines or hashtags. You just feel it, deep. And as for Carter, he didn't post a statement, didn't respond to the messages, didn't call the news. He just went home. The same way he arrived, silent. But for the first time in years, when he walked through town, people didn't glance past him. They looked twice. Because now they knew. They knew exactly who they'd told to leave and who had answered in his place. The change didn't come with a parade. There were no speeches, no front-page newspaper spreads. But something in Ironwood shifted, deep, subtle, and permanent. The gun shop, once just another stop for camo gear and ammo deals, became something else. It didn't matter if you came in for hunting supplies or just to look around. The moment you stepped inside and saw that photo, the patch, and the M1 rifle behind glass, the air changed. People lowered their voices. They paused. They remembered. Some veterans started making the trip on purpose, not to buy anything, but to leave something behind. A patch, a unit coin. One man left a handwritten note under the glass that simply said, "You carried us further than any medal ever could." And they all asked the same question. Is he okay? No one really knew. Sam Carter didn't change a thing. He still woke up before the sun, still walked the same 2 miles in the same old boots, still stopped at Rosie's Diner for his black coffee. No cream, no sugar, no conversation. Same booth in the back, same view of the parking lot. Still alone. He never brought up what happened. Not to Rosie, who'd been refilling his mug for years. Not to Carl, the cook, who once served in Korea. Not even to the guy at the next booth who started nodding hello every morning after that day. But folks noticed something different anyway. The first real sign came a week later. The local high school sent out invitations for Veterans Day, asking if any vets would come speak in the history classes. Carter didn't respond. But the next week, the principal got a package. No return address, no message, just a single envelope inside. It contained a handwritten letter, a story, about a rescue mission in 1970. 6 names, a hand-drawn map. No name at the bottom, no signature, just facts. They framed it and hung it in the school hallway. No plaque, no explanation, just truth. Back at the shop, the owner, who hadn't even been there the day it all went down, decided to do something small, something right. He mounted the scorched flag patch in a display case. Next to it, he added another inscription: "For the man we failed to recognize, and the brothers who refused to forget." And people didn't forget. The story moved, from veteran message boards to podcasts, even into quiet corners of local government meetings. Not because it was loud, because it was real. No one was screaming. No one was demanding. Just a reminder that respect is never optional. 2 weeks later, they came back. Not to the shop, but to Rosie's Diner. It was a normal Thursday morning. Carter sat in his booth, drinking his coffee, same as always. The bell over the door rang once, Then again. Then again. One by one, 12 men walked in. They didn't speak. They didn't make a scene. They just stood there beside the booth, as if they were waiting for a table that wasn't theirs. Carter looked up, met their eyes. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then the youngest among them, probably in his 20s, barely old enough to know what a rotary phone is, stepped forward. "Sir," he said quietly, "if it's all right, we'd like to sit with you." Carter didn't smile, didn't cry, just gave a slow nod. They slid into the booth without another word. For the next hour, the diner stayed hushed. No one tried to eavesdrop. No one pulled out a phone. But everyone remembered that silence, because it said everything. Sam Carter never needed a microphone, never needed a title. He didn't live for applause. He lived for the mission. And the ones who knew, they never forgot. It's easy to miss men like Sam Carter. They don't flash medals or tell war stories at barbecues. They don't ask for discounts at checkout lines or wear their past on a billboard. They blend in. They sit quietly. They nod and move on. But that doesn't mean they're forgotten. Not anymore. After that day at Rosie's Diner, word spread in a different way. Not viral this time, not across Facebook or trending on social media. This time, it was quieter, deeper. Word of mouth passed from father to son, from vet to neighbor, from one teacher to another. At the high school, the history teacher started using Carter's letter as part of a unit on modern warfare. No fanfare, no required reading. Just a copy pinned to the board, under the heading, "When Silence Speaks Louder Than Medals." Back at the gun shop, something else started happening. People stopped asking about discounts. They started asking about duty, about service. Some asked if the shop was taking donations to help local vets. One man, retired Air Force, came in with a photo of his own fallen squad leader and quietly asked if he could leave it near Carter's. The owner nodded and didn't charge him for the frame. The case grew, not cluttered, but full of memories, of stories, of men who came and went without applause. The shop became more than a place to buy gear. It became a kind of living tribute. A week later, someone added a handwritten sign above the case. "They don't ask for anything, so we remember everything." No one knew who put it there. No one took it down. Meanwhile, Carter kept walking. Kept sipping that black coffee, morning after morning, at Rosie's. People still gave him space, but now they also gave him nods, handshakes. Some asked if he needed anything. He always said no, always smiled politely, always kept moving. But one thing was clear, people saw him now. Not just an old man with a limp, not just a stranger in a booth. They saw him for what he had always been, a protector, a leader, a man who had done the hard thing, quietly, without expecting anything in return. And the men who showed up for him? They didn't do it for social media. They didn't come back for attention. They came back because that's what loyalty looks like. That's what brotherhood means. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It's a dozen boots hitting the ground in silence, because one of their own was left standing alone. And now none of us can unsee it, because Carter may never tell his story. But those 12 men already did, without saying a word. A few weeks after that morning at the diner, a letter showed up at the town hall. No return address, just a simple white envelope. Inside was a note, hand-written, tight cursive, careful. No signature, no explanation. It was addressed to no one, but everyone. It described a moment in Laos, 1971. A downed pilot. A 2-day hike through enemy territory. 6 men who didn't think they were going to make it out. It ended with one line. "I was never alone. They came." The mayor had it framed, hung it right next to the town's Veterans Memorial. No plaque, No announcement. Just hung it there and let the town find it for themselves. Because that's how Carter would have wanted it. No spotlight, no speeches. Just truth, sitting where anyone with eyes and a heart could feel it. At Rosie's Diner, people still talk about the morning the team came back. Not loud, just when the coffee's hot and the booth's empty. Some say Carter never really left that moment behind. That now, every time he looks up at the door, he sees them standing there again, silent, steady, ready. And you know what? Maybe he does. Because those 12 didn't just show up once. They showed the world how to show up. Not with anger, not with noise, but with presence, with respect, with the kind of honor that doesn't need a microphone because it's already been earned over decades of silence and sacrifice. People still ask what happened to the clerks. Some want to know if they apologized or if they got fired. But that was never the point. The real story isn't about punishment. It's about remembrance. It's about what it means when a man gives everything and asks for nothing, and how the world too often looks past him until it can't anymore. Sam Carter never raised his voice. He didn't demand acknowledgement. He didn't tell his story. But 12 of his brothers did, and not one of them had to say a word. So if you're ever in Ironwood, swing by the shop. You'll find that rifle right there in the case. You'll see the photo, the patch, and maybe, if you're lucky, a few more tokens left by people who understand what it all really means. And if you happen to see an older man with a slow step and a quiet smile walking past the diner window, don't ask what he did. Just know this: whatever it was, it changed lives. And some debts, they can only be repaid in silence. If this story moved you, hit subscribe and help us honor the silent heroes the world forgets too easily.